All right, guys, so we are going to work on rounding for one more time. And this is a strategy that you have used before, but we haven't taught it specifically. So you've kind of used it with other strategies because it made sense to connect them. But now we're going to practice just this strategy alone, okay? You are going to be switching back and forth between Seesaw and Zoom. Okay, so you're going to do some work alone on Seesaw, you're going to come back on Zoom, do some work on Seesaw, come back on Zoom. So make sure that you are prepared for that. If you need a moment to go ahead and open Seesaw, go ahead. You will not see the math activity yet because I don't want you to start working on it while I'm teaching. So I will release that to you in a few minutes, but you can at least get Seesaw set up in the background so that when it is released, you can go ahead and start right away. Okay, so get Seesaw set up in the background. Just minimize Zoom and have Seesaw pulled up. Awesome. Hi, if you're just joining us, you need to pull up Seesaw in the background and leave it in the back, and then you'll leave Zoom. So we are taking a look at rounding. We're going to listen to our friend Ronnie Rounder help us remember the procedures or the rules for rounding. Here we go. Oh, gotta share my sound.
Good evening. Welcome to the Roundabout Show with your host, Ronnie Rounder. You know, sometimes with numbers, you don't need an exact answer. You just want an estimate, a reasonable guess. But today, we're going to talk about rounding. We're here on the number line right now, and as a matter of fact, I see a number right over there. Hi, I'm 24 and I'm doing fine. Just hanging out here on the number line. I have to get rounded to the nearest 10, so I'm easier to work with. Now, let's begin. What I need to do is find which multiple of 10 that I'm closest to. On the number line, let's see who you've got. 30 is on the right.
Come on and take it to the top.
And 20 is on the left.
You wanna be down?
Whichever is closer is where I'm gonna round. 4 units from 20 and 6 units from 30, so I'll be rounding down to 20 in a hurry. I'll keep the number in my tens place, the 2, we know, and the rest of my digits will become zeros.
Hey, I'm 57, what about me? Where do I round to? I'm stuck in between 50 and 60. Wait, okay, I'll round up to 60, just 3 units away. Turn my tens place digit from a 5 to a 6. The 7 is a 0, now I made the switch.
Right, but I'm 35, I don't know where to round. Should I go up or down, guys? I'm the same distance between 30 and 40. Where do I go? Who will support me? Don't worry, 35, it's cool. Thank goodness. For numbers like you, there's a rule. Okay. Numbers that end in 5 always get rounded up. So I'll go ahead and make the jump to 40. Yep. Rounding numbers, you know how we do. What's the place value that you're rounding to? Look right, 4 and under, you're going down, and 5 and above is going up until it's rounded. When you're rounding, you know how we do. What's the place value that you're rounding to? Look right, 4 and under, you're going down, and 5 and above is going up until it's rounded.
Hey, it's me, 483. I'm so high on the number line that I'm hard to see. Rounding to the nearest 10, that could be smooth, but for now, rounding to the nearest 100 is the move.
As it turns out, it's similar to what we've already learned about. You need to find the closest multiple of 100.
Between 4 and 500 is what I've discovered.
Since that's the place value you're trying to round to, look to the right.
Hey, 8, I found you. You're above 5.
So we're rounding up, bro. Your hundreds place bumps up 1.
The rest are zeros. So I can round to the nearest 100. That's wicked. But what if I want to get more specific? An estimate that's closer to who I really am.
Well, you could also get rounded to the nearest 10.
Now back on the number line is where you find me.
Between multiples of 10.
480 and 490.
And by now, you should already know.
I'm closer to 480, so I'm rounding down
The
low.
hundreds and tens digits stay the same.
While all my other digits have to make the change.
To a 0, so next time you're doing math, and the numbers don't need to be exact, we'll be rounding numbers. You know how we do. What's the place value that you're rounding to? Look right, 4 and under, you're going down, and 5 and above is going up until it's rounded. When you're rounding, you know how we do. What's the place value that you're rounding to? Look right, 4 and under, you're going down, and 5 and above is going up until it's rounded. All right, that's a wrap. Ronnie Rounder, that's me.
All right, so remember, when you identify the place value to which you are rounding, you look to the right. So if you're rounding to the hundreds, To the right is 10. If you're rounding to the tens, to the right is the ones. You're always going to look right to figure out which place value will help you round, okay? All right. We are going to get ready to go into the seesaw lesson, which, haha, still has not been released to you because there's a second portion of it that I want you to watch. So let's take a look. This comes from Miss Thaxton today. It's a lesson that we all agreed on as a team, but Miss Thaxton is the one that put together the video for us, okay? Rounding on a number line. This is our learning target.
Today we're going to learn about rounding whole numbers using a number line. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to use place value and a number line to round whole numbers.
I have a feeling we're going to rock this because most of us have got it down pat. So this, if you would like to watch it independently later, there's a little link button right here. It looks like a chain. You're going to click on that and it'll take you to the video that I've assigned you, but I'm just going to go ahead and play it for you now since we're here together, okay? This is another look at how to round on a number line.
How can you round numbers? Think about this question during the lesson. About how many rocks does Tito have? Round 394 to the nearest 10. Is the nearest 10 390 or 400? The nearest 10 is 390 because 394 is closer to 390 than it is to 400. When you round to the nearest 10, you are finding the closest multiple of 10 for a given number. For example, 70, 80, or 90 could be numbers rounded to the nearest 10. Place value is the value of the place that a digit has in a number. Think about the place values of the digits in 394. What is the value of each of these three digits?
All right, I'm coming back to you for discussion. 394. What is the value of each of these three digits? So how much is the 3 worth? How much is the 9 worth? And how much is the 4 worth? So let's hear from a few of you. Hand emoji, please. How much is that 3 worth in the number 394? Hashtag I just said the answer. Oh, that's scary. None of y'all know? I don't believe that. Leah knows. There we go. Leah, I see it. 3 in the number 394. What's that worth?
300.
Oh, see, look, it's right there in the name. I literally said it. 300. You got it, girlfriend. What about the 9 in that number? 394. What's that worth? John, sit up, Bubba. 394. Kennedy, what's that 9 worth?
900.
In the middle, in the tens place.
90.
There you go. See, she knew how to fix that verbally right there. I love it. Quick thinker on her feet. Excellent. What about that 4? 394. What's that 4 worth? Aiden Leachman?
4.
That is correct. It's in the ones place, so it has the value of a single digit number. Excellent. We're on it. Let's keep going.
The 3 in 394 has a value of 300. The 9 has a value of 90. And the 4 has a value of 4. You can use place value understanding and a number line to help you round a number to the nearest 10. 394 is closer to 390 than 400. So 394 rounds to 390. Tito has about 390 rocks. Look at the number line. 395 round to 390 or 400? Explain.
All right, so take a look.
Select your answer.
Take a look at this number line. We have 395, it's halfway. Is it going to rest down to 390 or raise up to 400? I'm going to open up the chat and I want you to put that answer in the chat. So look at your choices. 390 or 400? You're going to type in the chat, and I'm going to click on the one that has the most responses. Let me open up the chat for you. There we go. All right, is it 390 or 400? That is open so everyone can see, unless they choose to send it to me privately, which most are. Okay, I see up. I see 400. I see up 400. I see 400. I have two 390s. I have 400.
Miss, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Mine is still private to you.
Okay, you can, in the to box where it says to, there's an arrow and you can click on it and it'll drop down, and then you can click to everyone. All right, I'm seeing a lot more 400s than I am 390s. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that 400 and see if you guys are right. There we go, you're back to host only options on the chat. Let's see if you're right. Most of you said 400, it rounds up. Are you correct? Oh, you are, yay.
395 rounds to 400. A number that is exactly halfway between two tens always rounds to the greater 10.
So this is a rule that you just have to memorize. If it is halfway, it goes up, all right? It's just a memorization rule that we move forward. So we're going to try a few. Drag the slider to a point on the number line to see that number rounded to the nearest 10. 390 rounds to 390. Let's just go crazy with it. Stop right there. 394 rounds to 390 because it is below that midpoint. What about, let's go crazy. Oh, same one, that's boring. Here we go. 399 rounds up to 400 because it is above that midpoint or after that midpoint. And again, as we just found out, when it's at the midpoint or the halfway point, it goes up to 400, okay? Very good.
About how many rocks does Donna have? Round 350 to the nearest 100. When you round to the nearest 100, what number would you land on? Numbers rounded to the nearest 100 are multiples of 100, such as 200, 300, or 400. If a number is halfway between two hundreds, round to the greater 100. 350 is halfway between 300 and 400, so 350 rounds to 400. Donna has about 400 rocks. Now you know how to round numbers.
You're awesome.
True that, you are. All right. So now this Seesaw assignment has been released to you. So I'd like for you to go to Seesaw, and you are going to go to slide 3 on the Seesaw assignment. If you want to watch how to get there, you can look at my screen. If you know how to get there, you can go ahead and get there. You're going to go to Seesaw in your activities, and right here, released to you, is rounding whole numbers using a number line, okay? Click on that Add Response button, and it will bring up the slides for you. We've already done slides 1 and 2. We've watched those videos. So we are on slide 3. Slide 3 says round 287 to the nearest 100. So we need to make sure that our benchmark numbers are hundreds, not tens, hundreds, okay? So go ahead and round in Seesaw 287 to the nearest 100, and then we'll check to see if you are correct. So remember to identify your low benchmark, your high benchmark, and circle the answer that is correct. So in Seesaw right now, you are on slide 3. You are rounding 287 to the nearest 100.
Miss Susan,
Yes, Lemon.
why does it saying that it's a video?
So there is a video there. If you click on the microphone tool, you can play that.
Try this one on your own.
It's just Miss Thaxton saying, try this one on your own. That's all it is, but you can still write over it just like I am on the screen. So 287 to the nearest 100. Let's come back together while you find that. We are going to, here we go, I need to fix this. There we go. All right, we are going to check to see if you are correct. So on the next slide, slide 4, I'm going to play it for you. You don't need to play it. You can just hear it here.
Now it's time to check your work. Our question says round 287 to the nearest 100. That means that we're going to use hundreds as our benchmark. We're going to start our low benchmark at 200 because the number in our hundreds place is a 2. Our high benchmark is going to be the 100 just after that, which is 3, making our two benchmarks 200 and 300. The number just directly between those two is 250. 287 is more than 250 because it has 8 tens versus 5 tens. And if we break down the second half of our number line into groups of 10, we go from 250, 260, 270, 280, 290 to 300. You can see that 287, as indicated by this black arrow here, falls right about here. That number is closest then, as you can see, to our 300 benchmark. So you should have gotten 300 as your nearest 100.
Okay, that's a way to check yourself. So rounding to the nearest 100. If you'd like to, later you can go back and fix your work. For now, we're going to move on to number 5. So here's the directions.
Now try rounding that same number to the nearest 10.
So now this is different because instead of rounding to the hundreds, we are rounding to the tens. So now this 8 in the tens place is going to change to an 80 or a higher benchmark number that you will determine. Okay, so you're rounding to the nearest 10. It is not going to be a 100 number. On slide 5, go ahead and do that work. On slide 5. Come back together on Zoom. I will share with you the next slide, which you also have, but we are going to check your work on that slide. Oh, I need to share my screen. I forgot about that. Hold on. There we go.
287 rounded to the nearest 10 is 290. We can figure this out by looking at the number in our tens place, which is an 8, using that as our low benchmark, 280, and then raising that by 10 to get our high benchmark. So our benchmarks are 280 and 290. To find out which benchmark 287 is closest to, you look at where 287 falls on the number line. Well, 287 is more than 285. And if we break up the second portion of our number line, we can see that 287 falls right about here, showing us that 287 is closest to the benchmark 290.
All right. I see several hand emojis, and in the chat, I've gotten a couple questions. So I'm going to take some time here to stop. What questions can I answer about rounding? And the statement, I am confused, is not a question. You got to tell me what part you are not understanding. Okay? All right.
On the 5th.
On slide 5? Okay, let's look at that together. So slide 5 is rounding to the nearest 10. So when we are rounding to the nearest 10, we have a number line. On this number line, we are going to put 287. First, we're going to figure out our benchmark numbers. So what tens are between? Just like any other time we round, we say the name. 287. So our first 10 number is 280. Do you understand where I got that from?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're just going to add 10 more. When we add 10 more, that's going to be our high benchmark. We know that 80 plus 10 more is 90. So 280 plus 10 more is 290. Because if we were counting by tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 is the next. Do you understand where I got that from? You with me so far? I can't see your face. Can you say yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So now we are going to look at our midpoint. We know that when we have tens, the middle of 10 is 5. Here's half, here's half. So in the middle is going to be 285. 285. Because if we were to count on a number line, 280, 281, 282, 283, 284, 285. We could keep going. 286, 287, 288, 289, 290. Okay? So now we're figuring out, where does this 287 go? Well, if we're at 285, 286, 287, it's right here. We can see that 287 is after the midpoint, or is on the greater side, so it would round up. It moves forward because it is closer to 290 than 280. To get to 290, we would only have to take 1, 2, 3 steps. If we were going to go all the way down to 280, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps, and that's too long. Okay, are you with me?
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, or are you still confused?
That's good.
Okay, all right, thank you. What other questions can I answer? Aiden Leachman.
This computer kicked me out of Zoom.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. That happens sometimes, but I appreciate you being responsible and coming back on. Okay. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions, so we are going to continue forward. All righty. So you've now practiced with rounding to the tens and rounding to the hundreds. We've checked our work. Now we're going to take a look at a final video before I release you to work. This is another look just to get it in your heads of how we round on a number line. Okay, here we go.
Hi, we're going to learn about how to round whole numbers. Julian has 845 rocks. Wow, that's a lot of rocks. He wants to round the number of rocks he has to the nearest 100. Since the 8 is the number that holds the place value of the hundreds place, the two possible outcomes when rounding 845 to the nearest 100 are 800 and 900. Let's use a number line to help us round 845 to the nearest 100. We need the number line to start at 800 and go to 900, since we are rounding to the nearest 100. And 845 is between 800 and 900. Now we need to see if 845 is closer to the 800 or the 900. Well, 850 is in the middle, and 845 is to the left of that, so it is closer to the 800. It looks like Julian has about 800 rocks. 845 rounded to the nearest 100 is 800. Now, let's try rounding the number of rocks Julian has to the nearest 10 using a number line. The 4 is the number that holds the place value of the tens place. We need the number line to start at 840 and go to 850, since we are rounding to the nearest 10, and 845 is between 840 and 850. Now, we need to see if 845 is closer to the 840 or the 850. Well, 845 is right in the middle of 840 and 850. Whenever you are rounding and the number is halfway between the two numbers, you need to round to the greater number. So 845 rounded to the nearest 10 is 850. It looks like Julian has about 850 rocks when rounding to the nearest 10. Now go have fun rounding, and I don't mean go in circles.
Wah, wah. Okay, so you are getting ready to complete some rounding work on Seesaw on the same assignment that you've been working on. The first part of it, I think you're going to like a lot because it's a little bit of a rounding game. It's called a rounding rocket, okay? So again, if you want to watch that video again, there's that little link down here. You can click on it and it will bring you open to your math textbook where the video is. On slide 8, you are going to find a rounding game practice, okay? So it says on slide 8, when I go to my instructions, on slide 8, click the link to go to the rounding rocket activity. Try out different levels. So when I click on the link, which is hiding, there it is, right down here in this corner, this little chain link, it's going to bring me up to a rounding rocket game. This is the only game that I want you playing on this website is Rounding Rocket. We are not clicking on these other opportunities for this lesson. If you want to on your own time later, fantastic. But for right now, we're staying on rounding. The first 4 levels are going to be your 3rd grade levels, okay? Rounding to the nearest 10 with 2 and 3 digit numbers are going to be your 3rd grade levels. So these are the levels that I really want you to practice. I'd like for you to practice with a number line. So I click on with a number line and those are my red levels. If I click on no number line, those are my blue levels, and that's not very helpful. So with a number line, and I'm going to choose one. I like rounding to the nearest 10, so I'm going to click that first. All right, round to the nearest 10. They're asking me to round 11. I can see on this number line that it's way closer to 10. So I'm going to click on the rocket that says 10. Yay! Down here, it shows me my score. The first number is how many I have right. The second number is how many I've answered. So watch what happens when I get an answer wrong. We know that when we round to the nearest 10, it can't have a number in the ones place because that wouldn't be a 10. So I'm going to click on this knowing it's wrong.
Try again.
Oh man. And now it shows that I've only gotten 1 right, but I've tried 2. Okay? So I'm going to practice a few of these. So you can spend some time practicing these until you feel comfortable. If I'm done rounding to the 10s and I want to try the hundreds, I click the menu. This will bring me back to let me choose a level of rounding to the nearest 100. Then the same thing begins. Okay? So you're going to spend some time on the rounding rocket game. Then you have just a few problems. There's one problem here, but you got to be careful because it asks you about the nearest 10 and the nearest 100. Aha, there are 2 things to do. And then on page 10, you also have 2 questions or 1 question to answer. You're telling me yes or no and telling me why. So you will only choose one of these. It's an or. All right? So for work time, you're practicing the rounding rocket game by clicking the link. You are answering the question on page 9. You are answering the question on page 10. Okay? This is your work that you will complete. What questions can I answer about your work? Aiden. Aiden Leachman, sorry, let me just be specific. I have 3.
What are we supposed to write on, type in on the lines?
Great question. Let me show you. So when you are working on your work, on slides 9 and 10, it asks, the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy has 294 steps. To the nearest 10, about how many steps there are. And then I can see right here, there are about blank steps to the nearest 10. So I'm going to round to the nearest 10 and put it right here. To the nearest 100, how many steps are there? Same thing over here. It says there are about blank steps rounded to the nearest 100. So I'll put one answer here. I'll put another answer here. You can draw any strategy that you'd like anywhere. You what?
It was on the other one with the
Gotcha.
long line.
This one, right here?
Yeah.
Awesome. Zoe says 247 rounded to the nearest 100 is 300 because 247 rounds to 250 and 250 rounds to 300. Is Zoe correct? Explain. So you're going to choose yes, Zoe is correct, or no, Zoe is not correct. Down here is where you're going to explain. So this part that says explain, so you're going to say Zoe is or is not correct because, and then use your math vocabulary like your place value words to tell me how you know. Does that answer your question, Aiden?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Other questions about the work? Levin.
Do we have a certain amount of time and how long we have to do this?
We'll talk about scheduling next. Okay. All right, so you are getting ready to work on this assignment for 7 minutes until you go to lunch. So for 7 minutes, if you need Miss Bram or myself, we will be right here, okay? If you do not need Miss Bram or myself, when we're done talking about scheduling, you can log off. Here's how the rest of your day looks. So for 7 minutes, you're gonna work until lunch. If you take your lunch and your recess and you need help with an assignment, you may log in at 12 o'clock for office hours. If you are done with your assignment, you will work on Prodigy or Zearn during this time because it is math time, okay? At 1:35, you have Related Arts with Miss Katowitz, and at 2:20, you will log back on for important dismissal announcements, okay? So you're working on math, now 6 minutes until lunch. You'll take your lunch and recess. Then you will come back for office hours if you have questions and Related Arts. Okay? All right.